Hello and welcome to our OIB-TAC monthly webinars. I'm Jennifer Ottowitz, older blind specialist with OIB-TAC. And today our topic is On My Terms, working with visual assistance apps. I'm very excited to have with me here today Hans Wiberg, founder of Be My Eyes, and Jenine Stanley, Director of Customer Communications with Aira. Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
And visual assistance apps have really, I think, revolutionized things for people who are blind or visually impaired, whether it's, just identifying something or giving access to print or other visual information someone might not otherwise have access to. It could be helping sign and complete documents, or just learning about what's around in the environment to help navigate within it, and even ordering and tracking a ride through a rideshare program. So they really, truly have been a wonderful and valuable tool added to the toolkit for those of us that are blind or visually impaired. And I'm excited that you guys are here to talk more about them. So I thought we could just begin by having you give a brief overview about what your particular apps and services are and do. And then also with that, just talk a little bit about any special partnerships that you might have that would be especially helpful for older adults. So Hans, and thank you for joining us all the way from Denmark. But Hans, why don't you go first?
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here. And it is the first time that I present together with Ira. And that's that's really interesting.
Yes, happy
because
to have you both.
a lot of people think that we are competitors, and in a way you can say that, but I'm more and I hope this Jenny will say the same thing. I see us as colleagues, and we do somewhat the same thing, but also very different. And Be My Eyes is first of all, it's a free app. It's based here in Denmark, and we have users in all countries. We have 185 different languages where you can sign up and choose basically any language you want. It's the people who are actually doing the work are volunteers. Ira has agents, trained professional agents, so that's a huge difference. We have volunteers. So when you, as a blind person, you make a Be My Eyes call, you will be talking to someone just like you meet someone on the street, and then you say, "Oh, can you tell me something?" And they will do that. But they are not trained to do it. The good thing is it's a free app, so you can spend as long time as you want without concerning about the cost of it. And we have like Ira, Be My Eyes app is super easy to use. You just download the app and you sign in with your email address, and then you're good to go. And you click the button, and within 10 to 20 seconds, you will have a live volunteer who said, how can I help you? And then you, as the blind person, you are the expert, and you say, okay, I'm sitting here with this can of something. Can you tell me what it is? And the volunteer will say, oh, you have to move the phone a little to right or something like that, then turn the can around. But yeah, that's coconut or whatever. And of course, that's the daily stuff that people are using it for. There is also, maybe we talk about that. There's also some limitations, but I know you will ask me that later. Some of the partnerships we have is we have made partnership with a number of companies where you can call their support line. You can call Google, and you can call Microsoft. But if you have like an issue with your Gmail account, then you can use Be My Eyes to call the support center at Google and have them help you sort out something. And that might be a good thing for some of the elderly users. And the good thing about that is when you are using Be My Eyes to call, let's say, Google, then the support person at Google know it is a blind person. And we also make sure that it is the same agents that are getting all the calls from Be My Eyes. So the person you will speak to at Google or Microsoft or LinkedIn or Spotify or some of the other companies, they are trained in talking to blind people because they have a great big experience in doing that. So that is where we have trained agents. We don't pay them ourselves, but it's a good thing because you can you get a better service with the companies, and the companies are very relieved that they know where to put the blind customers, because it can be very frustrating for normal agents, so to speak, that are not trained to talk to blind customers at all. So in that way, it's about a win for the company, but also for the users of Be My Eyes. I think that's about it, I would say right now, and then have Jenine explain Aira. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. All right, Jenine, how about Aira?
Sure. So Aira is a visual interpreting service. So you can think of us like sign language interpreters, in that our agents, who are the people that are working for you, basically, do have some training, like Hans mentioned. Our service comes through a smartphone app, which for older folks who are not using a smartphone, we are also available on the Blind Shell Classic 2 phone, which is an amazing phone if you still want a button-based phone, a very tactile experience that's accessible. We're also available, as is Be My Eyes, on the Envision glasses through the Envision app. And so we, besides being on iOS and Android, and also for us on the desktop, being available for people. So many ways to get to our service. Now, our service is paid. As Hans noted, Be My Eyes is free. So you have some choice. And I think, as Hans also said, we are definitely not competitors. Absolutely not. We're both in the same business of providing visual information where it's lacking. And I think it's a big shift for blind and low vision people to be able to ask someone, or to be able to determine when they need assistance, when they need information, how they want that information. And finally, we are not in that volunteer model, sort of where we have to wait for somebody to come over, a relative, a friend, an agency, to be qualified for something. We can determine when we want help. And just full disclosure here, I am totally blind, and this was huge for me. It's why I got involved in Aira. As I said, we're available through a smartphone app. We have corporate partners. We call them our Aira Access Network, where the service is free if you are using their products or at their locations. Otherwise, ours is a subscription-based service, so you would buy minutes like you used to do on the old cell phone plans. But for our Access Network, for example, we have around 50 airports or more in the US and Canada, the UK, and Australia. We're also in New Zealand and Canada, and we do have some airports in Canada as well. And those airports, when you're in the airport, you can use Aira for free. So you don't have to, if you don't want to, you don't have to wait on airport assistance and have those awkward interactions. You can navigate the airport. Yeah. You can also do places like Target. If you do your shopping at Target or Target.com, if you go to Starbucks, you can use Aira for free there. So those are just a few of the partnerships that we have. And I really am very excited about how Be My Eyes and Aira sort of blend together, where if you need some specialized assistance, like what Hans mentioned, you can go right to the Be My Eyes app and find that number, instead of having to hunt through the internet and then try to find out where you could contact someone who actually understands that you are low vision and can't see the lights on the modem or whatever, it is that you're working with. So it's a great, great connection, I think.
I'm really glad that we have. I'm also visually impaired. I'm not totally blind, but I have retinitis pigmentosa, and I'm a super small area of vision. So I am using my own app once in a while. But I also totally understand that sometimes you need a trained agent to do something. And I know for sure that we have users who are using both services. And of course, on Be My Eye, you can chat away without thinking about the cost. But also, if you need to have somebody see something like your credit card or something, you should never show that to a Be My Eyes volunteer. Then you should call Aira or something like that. So there is a use case for both services, and I know that many are using both services in their daily life. So.
Mm-hmm.
I love the collaborative spirit that you guys are not competitors, and there is room for both. There are some things you do a lot of things similar, but some things are unique to each platform, each company, and I think it's wonderful. So. All right. Well, talking a little bit about the agents versus volunteers. Jenine, can you talk just a little bit about the training that Aira agents do receive? And Hans, I'm assuming volunteers, if they do receive any training too, what we can talk about that when Jenine is done. But Jenine, how about you go first?
So our agents actually undergo about 4 weeks of initial training, and then they have follow-up training as they're agenting and as they are out there. We have people who've been with us for around 5 years now. We have been around for about 8 years, but we have some of our original agents still, but it's a continuing education process. But during those 4 weeks, they are going to learn things like how to give proper directions, how to help someone navigate, how to reverse your view if you're looking through the camera, particularly on our desktop app, because everything is reversed. And you know how people say, oh, wait, no, not my left, your left. Or, yeah. And so people have to really get good at doing that, get really good at reading a situation. Okay, I've got the camera. I also have all of these other tools on the dashboard that I can use, like Google Maps, Google search engine. Let's see, we've got a couple other tools that we can use, and learning all of those, learning how to work with our software to log the calls, things like that, but also learning to quickly find the information that somebody wants. If I've got a bank account pulled up and I want to know, okay, what is my balance? Or I've got a medical bill. Oh boy, everything's in columns. Where is the amount that I actually owe? And a lot of that is learning to use the phone camera, helping to show someone how to move the phone camera. That's a big deal. The agents also, during this training period, once they graduate from training, we just started a new training class today, actually, but when they graduate, they actually will sign several confidentiality, non-disclosure agreements, and those are binding. So we do have a lot of control over the calls. We record all of our calls unless you, the customer, specifically ask us not to. And if you feel that you don't want that information out there anywhere, that's fine. We can turn off the recording, and basically we use these recordings for training purposes. So if we have great calls that are great examples of how to do something, we're going to use those. Or if there's a dispute about anything, we're going to go back and review that call. And those calls are kept in a secure place at Aira, so your information's not going to get out. And that whole aspect of security is a really big deal for us and for our customers, because some people use Aira for work. And if you are still working and you are a senior, great. I unfortunately am falling into that category myself. So But if you are still working, we do offer Aira in the workplace and have a number of security clearances from people like Google and Microsoft to be able to work with some really sensitive information in the workplace, including healthcare settings. So that's basically all about our agents. They actually come from all over the world because a lot of our agents are military spouses. So they're in all parts of the world, all time zones, but they are usually, and particularly US citizens. We also have Spanish language available. So if you are a native Spanish speaker and want to use our product, great. Hans has the advantage of having all 180 languages, I think, available for people. So that's a great advantage of Be My Eyes. And actually, some of our agents are volunteers with Be My Eyes, as are a lot of rehabilitation folks. And I think every time I go to a new doctor, they tell me, hey, my spouse is a volunteer with Be My Eyes. So that's great.
That's amazing. I didn't know we were that close, but that's wonderful.
And Hans, for your volunteers, are there particular characteristics that make a good volunteer? It sounds like, anybody who is willing and anxious can sign up to be a volunteer, but what would you say makes a good or helpful volunteer if someone's considering this?
I'm pretty sure that our Aira agents are some of our best volunteers.
Yeah.
And maybe we should start marketing as a free version of Aira, because it's the same people taking the course. No, it's but that's amazing. Now, to answer your question, the volunteers on Be My Eyes, they don't really get any training because they are volunteers and they just download the app and say, I can help, I can do that. And of course, you as a user, you need to know that. And you need to be a little more patient. And also, as I mentioned before, you should never show your credit card or anything like that to a stranger because that's what it is. And we don't have the same they don't have to sign anything, and that's why you should not show them anything. And that is a huge difference between Aira and Be My Eyes. And that's also why we need both. But when you sign up as a volunteer, there is a short video that basically shows how it works, and you can do a little guiding and so on. And then as a blind person, when you make a Be My Eyes call, you need to know what you're doing. And then sometimes you must tell the volunteer, okay, in order to help me the best way, please guide me to get this in focus or something like that. So you have to sometimes do a little training with the volunteer. They are super happy, but because it's free, you do have kind of you don't have to worry about the cost of it, at least. So, but that is a huge difference. We do have a also like Aira, a Be My Eyes for work, where you and this is also very different because if you sign up for Be My Eyes for work, it would not be an agent, it would be one of your colleagues. So you basically have a closed version of Be My Eyes, and it will only be like 10 of your colleagues that would get the call when you press the button.
Well, great. Well, no, thank you. So appreciate that. So now, Jenine, I wondered if you can start us out. I bet you guys have your agents, volunteers do a lot of wonderful work and probably have some interesting stories. And again, keeping confidentiality in mind. But what are just some of the fun examples of things that your volunteers or agents have helped older adults with? Any particular tasks that were kind of unique or fun or just...
Oh, we had a great one over the holiday season. A grandma went to her grandchild's school performance, and the whole performance was done in American Sign Language with, a little bit of verbalization, but there was really no description of what was going on the stage. And she was able to connect to Aira, get an agent who might not have known what the signs meant, but she could describe, the agent could, what the people on stage were doing. And that way, this grandma was able to participate more fully in this event and to really get the full scope. And that goes on all the time with children, with grandchildren, with family events. The one thing that our agents can do is help you to take pictures through your phone. And they use that back-facing camera, soon to be the front-facing camera as well in our app, to be able to take pictures with your phone and label them with a description so you can find them later on in your camera roll, and you can frame the picture well, things like that. Travel is a big one. Cruises, our agents love it when you go on cruises, or you go to the zoo, because our agents love animals. When you're taking pictures of your animals at home. I'm thinking of weddings. We've had several weddings described by agents, and some of them are actually, fairly well-known blind people who have their weddings described by Aira. But often it's, the mother of the bride or the father of the bride or some relationship. We even have one of our customers who is a minister, and he used Aira to help him with his son's wedding, which I thought was really cool. The agent is describing everything as he's up there officiating the ceremony. I thought that was really, really a neat one.
Very cool. Hans, how about you? Any unique stories?
Well, you see, I only get the stories when I get an email about it. But one of my two of my favorites is actually in the same ball game. It was a lady from Finland who was at her son's badminton match. And she was completely blind, and it was kind of boring sitting there, and she could kind of hear the game going on. And then she said, oh, maybe Be My Eyes can help me. And then she made a Be My Eyes call, and the volunteer said, no, how can I help you? Can you tell me about my son's badminton match? Yeah, but who is your son? Well, she knows who the son was, but what kind of clothes does he have on? I don't know. But it's him yelling now. Okay, that's the guy in the blue. And then she could say how the match went on. And it was, of course, an unusual way to use Be My Eyes or Aira for that matter. But it was very entertaining for both of them. And the other story that I would like to say was a elderly woman. I should be careful now, but that's how she described herself. And she was about to go to sing in her choir. And they needed to wear black shoes, and she wanted to make absolutely sure that she also had black shoes on. And then she made a Be My Eyes call, and the volunteer who was in Ireland, and she picked up the call, and this lady from the US, she said, I'm going to sing in a choir, I need the black shoes. And then, oh, are you singing in a choir? I'm also singing in a choir. And then they forgot all about the black shoes, and they started to talk about what are you singing and what are we singing and all that.
Oh.
And the funny thing was that the lady in Ireland, she was actually with her choir, and then they just had a break. And then she said, would you like to hear us sing? Oh, yes.
Oh.
And then
Wow.
suddenly this Irish choir was singing across the Atlantic for this lady.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was, that was, of course,
So-
also very unusual. But some you get some funny stories sometimes. So, yeah.
So not only helping her stay connected with her choir, but making connections with her Be My
Yeah.
Eyes volunteer.
It's funny because one of the other persons in the choir, he said, "Oh, this was our first international gig."
Wow.
Oh, awesome. I've heard stories of, getting help from from visual assistance apps to access recipe books that maybe were
Oh,
only available
yes.
in print and different things like that. So I think there are so many ways that, all of us who are visually impaired, myself included, and especially older
I
adults.
have we have a Iranian guy who lives in Germany as a student, and his family has sent over a whole bunch of food,
Oh, yeah.
and no one in his surrounding were able to read Persian. Um,
Okay.
so he then changed his language. He had otherwise been using, because he was studying German, so he was using the German language. But then he just changed the app to Persian, and then he got someone who could actually read
Oh, his
the
care
text on
package.
the yeah.
That's
I love
brilliant.
So he was really using this, and he didn't have any other persons kind of to go to to read the ingredients there. So that was a smarter way to use when you can switch language.
Absolutely. What a benefit.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
I
Okay.
was going to say another really big thing. Have you ever dropped a pill?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and
And
it can be
yes.
erased before the guide dog finds it, or you find
Yep,
Yes.
it,
or
right?
the
Yeah.
Yes.
cat. Yes. And that's what both services are super at helping you, find those pills. We often read prescription bottles. We often read diabetic equipment or CPAP machines. Big help setting up your CPAP machine. Had a lot of those lately.
Right.
And that's where I would recommend that you're using Aira, because that is super, super important that you get that one right.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of the limitations. As wonderful as your services are, there are particular things that your volunteers and agents won't do for different reasons, for safety reasons, for privacy reasons, things like that. And just so that users are aware when they start using the app that their expectations are in line with what you really are able to do. Jenine, what are some of the things that your agents will not help with?
Well, we have two big policies that you need to be aware of. And the first one is that we do not assist in public restrooms. And the reason that we do that, and I know public restrooms can be some of the most confusing places ever, but many state laws here in the US prohibit any type of live streaming video in a public restroom. And so we have made the across the board decision that we will not be able to assist in a public restroom simply because we don't want anybody to get in trouble, particularly our agents. So what we do is we have a privacy mode, and you can go into the privacy mode when you're in the restroom and keep your agent on the call if you want, or you can simply hang up and then come back to the service whenever you're out of the restroom. That's one. Pardon me. Another one is that we are not able to help you if you're doing something like roller skating, skateboarding, riding a bicycle, something like that, where you are not in a motorized vehicle necessarily, but you're going faster than you would when you're walking, because there's that tiny little buffer between between when the agent is actually seeing you through the camera. So there's that little bit of time, maybe a couple milliseconds, but it's enough that we don't feel it's safe to be able to do that. We used to have a policy where we would not assist during a street crossing. We've modified that a little bit so we can give you some minimal assistance during a street crossing, but those are a few of the restrictions that we have. And of course, also nothing illegal. So no illegal activity, but those are some of the restrictions you need to be aware of.
And with the street crossings, I would assume it's still up to the person to have,
Yes.
good orientation and mobility skills to make the determination.
Absolutely.
Whether
And we will
Ira's
not, we will not tell you when it's safe to cross. We will give you information about the light. We'll give you information about turning lanes and things like that. But because traffic moves quickly and we can't be assured that we'll have a stable connection with your phone. We are not going to give you, tell you, oh, there's a car coming. Oh my, that is up to you.
I know too that sometimes both apps may be asked, volunteers, agents may be asked, related to medical issues, to maybe look at this rash, or what color is this mole, or anything like that. I would assume there may be some restrictions as to what body parts you're able to look at,
Yes,
or things like that.
yes,
And
definitely.
is that information available like on your website, things like
Yes,
that?
that's in our terms of service, which is right on our website. Down at the bottom of the website, you'll see a link for terms of service. And when you sign up for the service, you can also find that in the app. But yes, you do need to remain clothed. And this is something that is a little bit controversial. And I'm sure, even with volunteers, I didn't realize how many reflective surfaces there are around you. So, throw a towel, put on a robe, something like that, just in case, because, we can end the call if, we're seeing things we shouldn't be seeing. And we understand that sometimes you don't know. So we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. However, it can be quite an interesting process, though, of figuring out, I'm sorry, but
And this may be when you're not asking them about anything related to yourself, right?
exactly. You're
asking to
trying
look
to
at
do
the-
the thermostat or something like that.
or the shampoo and conditioner in the shower, and you forget
Exactly.
that you have no clothes
Exactly.
on or something.
Do
Yeah.
that before you disrobe for
Yeah.
the shower.
Yeah, exactly. Hans, how about Be My Eyes?
Well, this is getting more and more interesting. Well, I'm totally on the same page. We don't, in our terms of agreement, we say no credit cards, no important medicine. You cannot trust a stranger with that. Period. And you cannot ask a volunteer when to cross the street. Period. And we don't have any. We say that you should not use Be My Eyes when you are crossing the street. Also, because we have volunteers from England and blind people in the US, and they are not driving in the same side of the road and all that. So that can be really, really dangerous, really, really fast, and very confusing and all that. Because if you are making a call late in the evening, we will find someone in another time zone, and that could easily be Great Britain, and then you will be very confused about that. So we can show you where to stand and make sure you're facing the right direction, and so on. And Ira can do exactly the same thing, but we will never tell you, okay, now you can go, because that's not safe at all. And I always say that you need to learn your basic blind skills so you can do this on your own, because one day there's no power on your phone or whatever, so you have to do it anyway. So it's and don't be too dependent on technology. That's also, maybe I shouldn't say that, but I do anyway.
That's okay. That actually leads well into my next question. So and that's just addressing, when people ask the question, does this make people dependent, make blind people dependent on technology, on sighted help, and how do you address that, as well as any talk that these apps are a replacement for vision rehabilitation skills, orientation and mobility, independent living skills. I think you just started to talk about that you should have some basic blindness skills first. And any more you'd like to share about that?
Well, it's a super interesting area, and you cannot say what this does to people, because we are very, very different. I'm pretty sure that some people are using both Aira and Be My Eyes more than they maybe should, but I'm also positive that we are helping a lot of people be more active and live a more independent life, because they can get this little bit of help sometimes when they need it. And we can help them, like find out their new microwave oven, for instance, and they don't have to wait till somebody else comes around. And when they get the hang of that, suddenly they can do more cooking, and they can bake a cake for their guests and all that. Things that they might have learned, but it might have taken years to get there. With this, we can speed up some processes, but you also have to be super careful not to be super lazy about your blind skills. And I mean, we cannot kind of take the responsibility for that. I mean, if you have a car and you can drive, then maybe you should exercise a little more. And so it is kind of the easy way sometimes. But I'm also sure that we do help a lot of people get to some next steps in some areas. But it is absolutely a danger that you can be too reliant on any technology, also our technologies. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Jenine.
Yeah, Hans makes some excellent points here, and it's exactly what we've seen in how people use Aira. What we found was, in the beginning, a lot of people were using it for navigation, and maybe some newly blinded people were having the agent on all the time to get them from point A to point B, and maybe it's a regular destination. And then that person sort of dropped off the radar for a while, and 6 months later they would call back, and they were maybe 20 feet from the door. And the agent said, wow, I remember you, look where you are, And the guy said, yeah, I don't need you guys anymore. I just need you to find the door. That's it. And so he had the confidence. And I know, like, in my personal example, I go to the mall a lot more and spend a lot more money now. And same thing in the airport. I go to the airport shops a lot more now, because I don't have to worry about, oh, am I going to get lost? Am I going to be frustrated because I'm not getting the right info? I can go, and then pretty soon I learn my way around, and I don't need that sighted assistance quite so much to get in the general area of things. But yeah, keeping those blindness skills, learning them, going through rehabilitation. I think what holds so many of us back is that it's scary, it's intense, it's nerve-wracking sometimes to have to do these things, initially, until you learn the skills, and then you learn them, and then you're off on your own.
And you make both of you make a good point too, that I mean, there are times when your connection may not be there, right? You're for the technology to work, you may be off the grid, and you still need to function. And so it's important to have those basic skills in addition. And I think that it really speaks to the idea of on my terms, right? Using the assistance when, where, and to the extent that you want or need. So I guess just to wrap things up, any other final thoughts about the idea or of on my terms, ways your subscribers, customers have used your apps on my terms, or anything else you'd like to share about your service?
I would like to kind of double click on the difference between if you have been low vision or blind for many years, and you as a elderly person get visually impaired. That is a huge difference, because I mean, I have been visually impaired for 30 years now. So I have some skills, but if I in 10 years would have become blind, then I had to learn a whole lot of things as a 70-year-old person, and that might not be that easy. So I would say that don't hesitate to use whatever technology if you are an elderly person, because you damn well deserve it, and nobody should tell you what to do. And it's also don't compare yourself to somebody who went blind when they were 10, and they have 60 years of experience, because you will never get that. And that is something to kind of to keep in mind, that it's a very different situation, and take all the help you can get. Of course, you still need to practice and learn your skills and so on, but don't be ashamed of not being able to do the same as a young guy who is running around and has been doing that for 20 years. So that's just my...
Appreciate it. Good point. Very good point. Thank you. Jenine?
Well, I would say, don't give up, because it is difficult. However, the whole concept of on my terms is that you can be in charge. And a lot of the stereotypes that you might remember of older blind people, oh, grandma just kind of sat in the chair and waited for us to help her. You are not that. There are many, many resources available to you now. And Aira and Be My Eyes are just a couple, but there are many, many more. Some are technology-based, some are just plain old, hardware kind of solutions, like measuring cups and liquid level indicators and all of these great things that you can take advantage of. And you are in charge of making that decision. And I think when you want to use this type of technology versus maybe a family member, you can determine that. And that's a really big step, I think, for blind people, and a big step sociologically in being able to say, wait a minute, I'm in charge, and I can tell you that, okay, could you give me directions in clock face versus compass directions? Or could you slow down a little bit? And as we age, we acquire other disabilities too, sometimes hearing loss, sometimes mobility, sometimes some cognitive things. And all of these things are things that can be accommodated when you know what you want to happen in the interaction. So that's on my terms as we see it. And actually, one of our customers coined that phrase, on my terms.
Well, thank you both so much. It's so exciting to have both of you here together. Again, I really love the collaborative spirit and just the respect and acknowledgement that you all have, that what services you provide are in some ways the same, in other ways different, in many ways complementary, and both services are indeed a truly valuable tool in the toolbox for people who are blind or visually impaired to live successful and happy lives, to be able to function, and to get the help they need on their terms. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.